Hi, I'm Ashley, and you are listening and watching Confidence in Coffee. What if I was to tell you that you can find confidence despite any of your circumstances, good or bad? I'm going to help you navigate the waters of womanhood, whatever season that is in. Whether it's marriage, singleness, or you're drowning in children, I'm going to help you find confidence and hope through Christ. I'm going to leave you with plenty of encouragement and practical tips to overcome those limiting beliefs so you can live a life well. Plus, we're going to find a few laughs along the way. So grab your favorite cup of coffee and join me as we chat confidence and coffee. You guys, I'm so excited about our guest today, Rich Grogan. He was such a fun person to talk to. It was such a great conversation, and he really is making a difference. He even emailed me after our interview and said that he added the word confidence in there. The reason that is because his mission is to help people who have struggled with bully. He calls it being bully proof. And he is actually a martial master artist, 6th degree black belt, and a bully proof and self-defense expert with over 40 years of experience. Having personal experience bullying as a victim, bystander, and a parent of his own child being bullied, he has made it his lifelong work to empower kids, parents, teens, and adults with hope and the self-confidence to believe in themselves to become bully proof. He's an entrepreneur, an author, an inspirational speaker. He's a coach, and he's the host of the Grogan's Bully Proof and Kickin' Life podcast. And he's the owner of one of the largest martial art academies in the Midwest. He's empowered tens of thousands of people with his unique, uplifting messages to audiences and all ages of leadership, life skills, character development, and becoming bully proof. He's amazing, and our conversation was so great that we are actually doing 2 episodes. We made it into 2 parts because we want you to be able to process and take in everything and gain as much value as you can, as I did and as he did. So be ready to receive, be ready to be blessed, and enjoy these next 2 weeks with my friend Rich Grogan and the inspiration that he's going to give us all here on Confidence and Coffee. Hey, you guys, I'm here with Rich Grogan, and he is just phenomenal. I literally stopped him because I want you guys to hear our conversations because it seemed we've already made a connection and we can continue talking. I'm so honored to have him on Confidence and Coffee. You guys, he is the real deal. Okay. He has been empowering tens of millions of kids, adults to bullying and how they can face it. And just being real and standing up to that and being confident in their minds and their hearts. He is a dad and a husband, a Christian father, and he's passionate about what he does. And he has a story about what he's going to talk to us about why he does what he does. But he is a bully proof expert. He has a podcast about bullying, and he is a life coach. He has his 6th degree black belt, you guys, in master martial arts with 40 years experience, and he has spent the last 30 years of his life teaching, coaching, and educating kids, adults of the power of hope and courage and confidence and to believe in themselves to overcome their fears, to stand up to bullying. Man, I could go on and on and on. I just love what you do. It's so needed, and you must be protected. This man must be protected at all costs. I listened to a little bit about with your podcast, everything you do in your book. And I told you I need to get it for my kids personally because, they're so dynamic in ages. I know that we were just talking about your broken nose, and I want to bring him in that conversation because I was telling him my husband was really athletic. Like he should have been like a pro baseball player, but he was stubborn. And his baseball coach said, don't play any other sports. And he went and played football, and he hurt himself. He hurt his knee, and he had to get knee surgery. So he just went into the Coast Guard Academy. He's very competitive. He's still like that, but he's 7 times, and he
And I have a tissue. I'm kind of have a cold, but I made a TikTok about it, about like, just that's one of my icks about him, like how he goes, and I feel bad because he doesn't mean it.
Oh my goodness. That's funny you say that because my wife, the same thing. Well, and I've had surgery to move it back into the middle of my face and then kind of roto-rooter to clean it all out and straighten it up. So, but it's all rubber now. I've blocked too many punches with my face. And my instructor said, well, get your hands up, learn to block. And I played hockey at a competitive level. And so a little fighting on the ice as well. And, but anyway, that's fun.
Okay.
That's funny you say that. And then, well, first, Ashley, thank you so very much for giving me the opportunity to be on your show. I did a little stalking of you as well. I read the brief sheet and listened to your last podcast
Mm.
on should Christians be manifesting. I can't wait to talk about that. But with your husband, my oldest son Austin, who's 22, he was an extremely good baseball player, and he's also a very good football player, but he had compounding concussions, and it really kind of changed a little bit of his life because his hand-eye coordination went down the tubes after that. Poor kid started having seizures and everything else. But it is what it is. That wasn't his path, and he helped out with our martial arts academy and has done incredible with that, and just an incredible human being. Matter of fact, he works for Howard Partridge, who is Zig Ziglar's son, Tom Ziglar's business coach. So that's pretty
Wow.
fantastic. And since I'm giving Austin a shout out, I got to get my other kids in there too. My daughter Madeline, she's 19. She was part of the academy as well, and she does Disney princess parties. So she dresses up as Disney princesses and empowers the girls and the kids by reading to them and talking about women's empowerment and little girls. Don't let anybody ever push you around or bully you around. You are a unique gift from God. You need to stand up and protect yourself. So that's what she does. And then my son, my youngest son, Emmett, who's 14, he's a hockey player as well. He plays goalie. We're all down here in Florida. We just recently moved about a year and a half ago from Southern Illinois to Palmetto, Florida, which is on the southwest side. We got the white golf sand, or on the Gulf Coast, the white beaches and sands, and it's beautiful. But anyway, I just do your husband talking about football and how it,
Yeah. No, my
I want
husband's
to
from
tie that
St.
in.
Pete, Tampa,
Oh
Florida.
my gosh. Well, he knows the beauty down here.
I can see the similarities. It's definitely one of our, God called us here in Virginia right now. Wasn't my pick, his pick, but he has a purpose. And so, but I know that's where we will land. I knew that when we were dating, but that could be 30 years from now. You never know. So I will just vicariously live through you. You
Well,
must be a proud dad.
well, and oh, I can't forget my wife. My wife's put up with me. My goodness, we've been married 26 years now,
Oh
and
my,
yeah, it's well, and just like anything else, there's ups and downs and this and that. I always kind of she hates when I say this, but it's the truth. She was my sugar mama. She was a nurse during all the days of me trying to build a business through
oh,
repeated failures and bankruptcies and house foreclosures. She stayed with me through thick and thin, helped raise three amazing kids. We actually homeschool our kids now. My youngest son, I say she handles the schooling part, the intelligent part. I handle the PE part, so we got that going. But now she's been wonderful in helping me through. And with our martial arts academy, which we, my goodness, owned for 26 plus years in Southern Illinois, we sold that in August of last year to our senior instructor. And then in Florida now, he owns that, and I still help him out when need be. But I wanted to focus all my energy on the Bully Proof brand with the books, the speaking, the podcast, and kind of went from being a big fish in a small pond in a little small town in Southern Illinois to now I'm a little minnow in the ocean here in Florida trying to get the message out to the world. And it's all
mm,
about self empowerment, confidence building, helping kids and adults believe in themselves to utilize their God given talents. And we're all unique in our own ways. And oftentimes, unfortunately, people want to fit into that proverbial round hole because they feel it's the comfort zone, it's the safety zone. And by doing so, we're not utilizing our unique God given talents. There's 8 billion people on the planet. Every one of us is unique in our own way. And God wants us to utilize that uniqueness to be a vessel to spread the message out to help, I like to say, make society a happier, healthier, and safer place to live. Because if people are happier and healthier, it's much safer because happy, healthy people aren't bullying one another. Happy, healthy people aren't shooting up schools. Happy, healthy people aren't being rude. Happy, healthy people are doing what they can to make society better. And when I say that, I always like the little caveat here. I realize the world ain't all sunshine or rainbows, but yet there's a lot of good out there. But oftentimes we focus on the negative because that's all the news media, which
right.
I call the devil's workshop, focuses on, and they try and destroy our confidence and beat us down so we no longer believe in a healthy, happy future. And that's where we have to be combative and us work together to help get the message out to empower those kids, parents, teens, and adults to believe in themselves.
Amen. I just was compelled. I've never asked anybody this question, but as you're talking, I'm compelled and I feel led to ask you, do you believe if now, you have a lot more wisdom, and I love having men on my show. It's like my favorite because we need men.
I
We
love being on
That's
women's
okay.
shows. I really, truly do.
Yes,
One of my
I
favorite
love it.
things at the Academy
Yes.
was teaching women's self-protection workshops. And just for the record, I don't know if you can see my videos back there. Back in the early 2000s, I taught aerobics for about 12 years, kickboxing aerobics, but I filmed some exercise videos. So I love being surrounded by women, and it's a learn. But anyway, we can talk
Mhm.
more about that later. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's beautiful, right? That's the way God designed it. Like us to be, this is what it looks like. So let me ask you a question. Do you believe now more than ever that we need to know the meaning and carry confidence because
It's
of everything?
well, in the number one leading contributor to suicide is lack of hope, faith, and confidence. And essentially that belief in yourself, when your self-esteem is down, when you feel worthless, you feel like there's nothing there. Obviously you have your confidence is in the pits, so to speak. A presentation I give to athletic teams all the time, and your husband will definitely appreciate this, but I use hockey goalies as an example. Now, my youngest son, who is now a hockey goalie, which goalies are the craziest people on the planet, simply because they're
They
willing to
are.
stand in front of a rubber Vulcan disc that goes 100 plus miles an hour. The example I give on confidence is one night he can stop 40 shots and just have the game of his life. And it's like, all right, I'm riding high. The very next night, he couldn't stop a darn beach ball. He gets 4 goals on 4 shots, but he's still the same person. But his confidence is an emotional roller coaster. So what we try and do is try and, well, I would say you don't want to flatline, because a flatline means you're dead, right? So you got to have some ups and downs. You just try and avoid the peaks and the valleys.
Yeah.
But the thing about confidence is that overall belief in yourself. And I'm a true believer that we are the meanest, nastiest bully we'll ever face, or the meanest, nastiest bully we'll ever face is the one we see in the mirror and the one we hear in our mind, which is basically, it's another book I'm working on. It's called Defeating the Bully Within. And it's talking about, well, forgive me, but the mental demons in our head. Satan plants those thoughts in our heads. Well, you know what? Maybe I'm not smart enough. Maybe I'm not good enough. I'm sure as heck not big enough. You know what? Maybe they're right. Why in the world? Where's God at? Why isn't he helping me with this? So we start planting all those negative seeds. And before you know it, we're starting to believe the lies that Satan has planted in our mind. And our mind is the most fertile garden on the planet. You think about any garden you plant, what you plant is what you get. If you want strawberries, well, you got to plant strawberry seeds. If you plant onion seeds, you sure as heck aren't getting strawberries. Well, the same thing, if we fill our mind with negativity, self-doubt, and limiting beliefs, lack of confidence, where's God? Why isn't he helping me? Well, those are all limiting beliefs, and that's going to continue to manifest in our mind, and it's going to grow into something that's pretty hard to get rid of. And we know when a weed grows in the garden, we can't just pull the top of the weed. We got to dig down to get that doggone thing out of there. As I mentioned, one of my favorite things to do at the Martial Arts Academy was the self-empowerment classes, but mainly we call it the women's self-empowerment workshops. So ladies would come in, and they would come in with friends, and they'd all be laughing and joking. So my whole point with that is, yeah, we're going to have a good time. I said, but I want to dig a little bit deeper to maybe uncover a little bit of hurt, but I want you to use that as your, well, Bobby Boucher from the Waterboy, your tackling fuel to empower you to believe in yourself. And the women would leave there with their chest out and like, oh yeah, I dare some sucker to come and grab me or tell me this and that. And I'm saying, I don't want you to go out there beating everybody out, but I do want you to carry that confidence that you have more power than you'll ever realize. And we do that through hitting the equipment and but that belief in themselves. And like I said, it was just so empowering to watch the women leave and like, yeah, all right. Well, we all have that in us, but it's oftentimes, buried under several layers of, people telling us, no, we're not good enough. We'll never be able to do this, or whatever negativity that others
Right.
and Satan plant in our mind. And that's what squelches and squashes that confidence. So that's why we have to dig it out. But we can't do it alone. We need helpers. And kind of my goal with the program and being on podcasts like what we're doing here and what you're doing is collectively. And one of the presentation I give is the power of the fist. Individuals, we fail. So if an individual team, like your husband's baseball team, if they all played individually and was all about them instead of about the team, me instead of we, then they're going to fail. But collectively, when they all work together, and that's the power of the fist, which is strength, unity, justice, power, honor. And that's what builds that confidence. And I say, if I would have hit a board with my fingers, I would break every finger, but yet I have the power of the fist and then
Mm.
obviously the proper technique. Now I can bust through that board. And one of the things I do during presentations and speeches, I'll bring a bunch of boards and I'll grab some people from the audience and I'll have them write a fear on the board, whatever that fear may be. Maybe it's I'm not good enough, or I was told I was too small, or I'm not smart enough, whatever the fear is. And they write it on the board, and then we work on the proper technique, and then they learn how to break through it. And I said, now you broke through this board with the same confidence I want you to carry out of this room tonight, and use that same confidence to break through any other fear that gets in your way, or any other bully that tries to keep you from being the God-given, beautiful gift and powerful, confident person that God wants you to be.
That's good. Oh my gosh. Like I said, we need to protect this man at all costs. Okay. So, you know what I found because I'm a confidence coach and I have a testimony myself, but I love that you work with young kids because, you're talking about the thoughts or the limiting beliefs, right? Do you believe, I mean, I'm sure you've seen it with working with younger children, that it starts at that age. Like maybe somebody in their life has, and I would love to hear about your story because it really touched me because I was bullied in school. Like I'm from the hood. Like we moved all the time. I'm from Detroit, lived by Eminem. Okay. Oh, they call me Cinderella. Okay, from Gaston, Alabama, from the South, which was even worse. And I hid in the bathroom and ate my lunch in the bathroom or in the guidance counselors because I didn't have a great home life and I wasn't safe anywhere. Just resonated with that. I have a heart for that, is you have a heart for that. And I wonder what your thoughts are on those young ages when those limiting beliefs are starting to be rebirthed. Because, like, I think about if when we're young and we're like, if our mom loves our picture in kindergarten, we feel like the best person in the world. Like, we're just like, yes, I have the best picture, but it takes one person to make fun of that picture and them to start to doubt themselves. And then that's what bursts those insecurities. And then people feed off that. And then can you imagine how worse it is with your family when they're like, you're never going to amount to anything? For me, it was like you were supposed to be aborted. Nobody wanted you. Your dad didn't want you, like stuff like that. Like that stuff really sets the tone for what you believe about yourself. I love that you work with younger children because, like you said, it's deep. Those roots are really, really deep and we have to dig them. And the world will give you a false confidence and you'll just keep putting a band-aid on a real life problem until it gets to where it's out of control and it's going to come out in a really toxic way. And so I believe that we really genuinely need to work on the younger generation. I'm curious about your thoughts about, do you find that it's better and it's like vital and more important if we work on them right now at a young age, build that confidence because of those root things, because it starts so young, because of those insecurities? Like, what are your thoughts about that? What do you see in working with children?
Well, really a lot to unpack there, and
I'm
thank you
always
very much
I'm
for asking.
always
No,
do
no.
that. Like, here's
Uh,
my
c-
baggage.
can I ask you? You mentioned the Cinderella. Obviously, you're very, very beautiful, and you have that confidence that radiates. I'm guessing from what you went through, that confidence wasn't always there, and
No.
that's why you talk about it now, right? Because
Right.
there's billions out there that
Right.
are suffering from the same exact thing, and by you being transparent and honest, that was something for, I don't want to say the longest time. The martial arts federation I was a part of for over 40 years. Well, I'm still in martial arts, but I was with this federation like 26 years, I guess. And it was the same organization that Chuck Norris came up with it. So it was very disciplined, very strict. It was a Korean organization and very firm, and the kind of the stone faced, you can't show emotions. And be honest, as an adult, I was in trouble a lot for being too goofy. Well, my thing was I'm trying to spread joy. Now, when it was time to be proper, it was militaristic art. I'm standing at attention, I'm firm and this and that. But when I'm working with kids, I'm not I'm not treating them like soldiers. Yes, I want them to be disciplined. Yes, I want them to be respectful and have the self-discipline to put their shoes side by side to say yes sir, no sir. But I'm nothing but, and this kind of answers your question in a long format, I'm nothing but a big kid myself. So what I'm trying to do now when I'm working with kids and parents and adults is be the person I was always looking for, being that hero. I always wanted someone to help me learn how to stand up to this bullying, help me learn how to believe in myself, help me not ask God, why am I different? Now, I was never diagnosed with ADD or ADHD or any of that because back in the 70s, that really wasn't a thing. My thing was just, Richie, sit down and shut up and quiet down. Okay, well, I can't quiet down. So I'm quite sure I had it then, and I know I got it now as an adult. And I used to think, and I would pray, I didn't know what it was, but why can't I be like everybody else? Why can't I be more normal? Why can't I? And I know a lot of kids do that because everybody wants to fit in. We see the kid with all the friends, and they're the cool kids. So we want to be with them. Well, that kid, oftentimes some of the cool kids were the biggest, meanest bullies. So people would be friends with them in order to keep from getting bullied. And I actually just had this conversation last night with a good friend from that I met at church down here, and he talked about how when he was bullied as a kid, that even his friends turned on him. And I said, well, the unfortunate truth of that is most kids are so fearful of the bully, they are more fearful of the bully bullying them than they are of losing you as a friend. Now, think about how deep that is, but that's the reality of it. And when it happens, and I'm sure when you were bullied, everybody standing around, most of the people didn't feel good about it. The bully doesn't even feel good about it, but they do that because they think it's a way of making them feel better. I'm working on a how-to book, How to Become Bully Proof, just guide towards self-empowerment. And I wrote in there that bullying's been around since the first two brothers, Cain and Abel, walked the face of the earth. And that didn't turn out very good for either one of them. Cain bullied Abel literally to death. Why? Because Cain was jealous of what Abel had. Abel had a good work ethic. Abel was a lot of respect for himself and the work he put in. And he presented that gift to God. Where Cain, on the other hand, would just kind of, however you interpret the Bible in this approach, but it says God was not pleased with Cain's gift. Well, to me, that means Cain didn't have a lot of self-respect because he didn't put the work needed into the gift that he presented to God. So what did that do? That sent Cain into a vengeance and a rage over Abel, which he's already jealous of him to begin with, and he ended up killing him. So Abel gets bullied to death, and Cain lives a life of bullying himself. So
Oh, that's good.
I kind of went a little deeper than I probably meant to there, but that's kind of what I talk about in the book, because people oftentimes where everybody's unique in their own way. I am not. Yes, let me say this the right way. I love it when people talk about stop bullying and bully prevention and all these things. You're drawing awareness to it. But oftentimes their solution is putting a kid in a blue shirt saying stop bullying. All that does is put a magnifying glass or a spotlight on this kid, because the cool kids aren't wearing those shirts. It's the kids that want to stop the bullying that are wearing it, but all that does is draw attention to them. So we're going at it the wrong way. I was a PE teacher for 11 years, and I've worked with the schools for 30 plus years, and I've been very blessed to have the opportunity to do that. But every year that have Red Ribbon Week, and we talk about drug awareness. I'm glad to bring in those topics up and talk about bully prevention, but that would be it. First week in October, no more talk about it. Well, my whole thing, what I try and do is the self-empowerment, is to empower the child, the adult, the parent, the teachers, the coach on, yes, what to look for, but to give the tools to the kid to help them become self-reliant, or help them have a self-transformation to the confidence to believe in themselves, to stand up to, I like to say, every bully they face, both real and in their mind. Because oftentimes parents will say, well, I think my kid's being bullied. And I said, well, what's happening? Well, the other kid's calling him bad names. I said, well, that's not necessarily bullying. Bullying is repeated behavior over and over again. And I said, well, what you want to do? And I have a little thing called little plug for my book here.
It's not a little thing.
It is the ABCs to become bully proof. And the A is awareness and avoidance. You want to do what you can to be aware of negative situations, dangerous situations, bullies or predators, or, anybody out there that's trying to hurt you. Be aware of that, and then do what you can to avoid it. Now, that doesn't mean you run from your troubles and your problems, but it does mean you're smart enough to realize, look, this is a bad situation. I need to stay away from it. And also the awareness of the negative thoughts we allow into our mental garden. The B is believe in yourself by strengthening your bully-proof armor. Now, your bully-proof armor, if you can see my shield back there on the Grogan's bully-proof, that came from the armor of God. And I've got the armor of God written. Oh, it's let me turn the thing. My wife bought that for me. It's up there in the top corner, and it's the armor of God. But anyway,
that's so cool.
To believe in yourself with your bulletproof armor.
Like, what's the story behind your logo?
Yeah, and actually I'm one of those. It's I'm changing it from Grogan's Bully Proof. That's the name of the business. We're going to title everything now Becoming Bully Proof. So we're having the new logo made. And
Okay.
if you see the two characters in there, the one is the defeated posture, someone that's been bullied and just pretty much beat down where they no longer believe in themselves. And the one behind them, that's the confident, empowered posture. They've got their bullyproof armor on. And that is essentially it, when kind of designing the logo and the layout of the book and everything else. I was like, well, the biggest thing I'm trying to accomplish here is taking the little, well, if you will, the little guy here. That's Richie at 12 years old. And now that's Master Grogan 40 years later. Well, it's still the same darn person, but this person believes in themselves because they have their bullyproof armor on. This person is someone who's been bullied to the point of thinking about giving up on life. So that's the whole essence of that. And it doesn't have to necessarily be a kid. My book here is about me as a 12-year-old meeting me 40 years later as Master Grogan. And we go on a journey where the older me is teaching the younger me everything I wish I would have known. Number one, about believing in myself, believing in my God-given talents, and realizing and knowing and being okay with the fact that God gave me a unique gift that he didn't give to anyone else. And that's hard. It really is, because everybody wants to be in with the cool kids, the cool clique, right? Well, we're meant to stand out. That doesn't mean we isolate ourselves. I talked earlier about the power of the fist, but it does mean we unite with those kind of on a similar path or similar mission, a similar journey of self-empowerment for themselves. And it's one of those, the better we feel about ourselves, the more apt we are to help out others. If we're bullied, and the reason people bully is because they're missing something inside. Cain was missing something inside. It was that hard work ethic, that self-respect. Why would somebody say, why wasn't he born with that? Why didn't God gift him that? Well, God made us all unique just to see how we handle adversity and challenges. But that self-respect, that bullyproof armor is well, I kind of got sidetracked here. That's the B, the believe in yourself with that. The C is communicate clearly and confidently with your, I call tiger's eyes and lion's voice, and your bold and postured posture. Because if you walk around looking like a victim, you're going to be a victim. And something I do in conferences, and maybe you'll play along with me here, Ashley, if you could do this, just kind of put your head down, if you would, please, and put your shoulders forward and kind of slouch. Now, does that feel good?
Mm-mm.
Not at all. Does that feel empowered? No.
Mm-mm.
Then I always like to say, then why the heck are you doing it? And I say, well, you told me to. Well, I make a joke of that because if it doesn't feel good, don't do it. Now, roll your shoulders back, your head up. Well, not only are you expanding your lungs, and obviously I read somewhere online that, oxygen is the key.
I look good too. I look skinnier.
Yeah, you look beautiful anyway, Cinderella. So, but your lungs are expanded. When your lungs are expanded, you're getting more oxygen to your brain. So you're thinking clearer. You're getting more oxygen to your extremities. So now you're moving better. You look better. You look powerful. You look confident. And not only do you look that way, you feel that way mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. And obviously, the predators in the wild, what do? What does a lion go after? Lion goes after the weakest gazelle, not the strongest gazelle. Bullies go after someone that they know they can get over on. They can over empower. They can get power over them because that person's not empowered. And but you walk around. I'm not saying you walk around like, oh yeah, somebody want a piece of me, let's go. That's a little too far. That reaches that confidence and the cockiness and arrogance. But most people could use a little extra confidence to push them and help them believe in themselves. So that's the ABC. Now the D is defend yourself with physical force if you're physically attacked. And we try and do everything I can to avoid that. And if you work the ABC correctly, you're going to. But if someone physically puts their hands on you, it is no longer bullying by law. The definition is assault and battery because they have now committed a crime against your body, and you have the right to physically defend yourself with enough force to stop that attack. That doesn't mean we beat them down to the ground, but it means we do what we can. And I teach the kids and adults. So it's called a palm strike. It's open hand technique. So it's not a closed fist. It's open hand right here. We've all banged on a table before, and you right into the solar plexus, right into the rib cage. Boom.
You have to give me some lessons.
Yeah. And what it does is it incapacitates the person. It knocks the wind out of their body. We've all had the wind knocked out of us before, and we know how, you can't breathe, you can't move. And it's the exact same thing I teach law enforcement officers as well. I said, man, don't be hitting people with your billy clubs, and do everything you can to avoid that. I said, because especially if somebody's on drugs, crack, whatever, you could break their arm and leg, and they're going to keep coming at you. However, you take the air out of their lungs, they can no longer breathe, they can no longer function. And the good news is it's the most effective non-lethal technique there is, because after 30 seconds or so, but they remember, son of a gun, that hurt. I don't want any part of that again. So anyway, I kind of went on a big tangent there.
No,
Sorry
I
about
love
that.
it. I love it, love it, love it. I love your passion. I love that because in therapy, they tell you to write a letter to your younger self, or you see it on social media. Like, what would you say to your younger self, right? What would you change if you could go back? And you literally wrote a book about your guiding. I mean, that has got to be stinking healing. I've never heard of that before. That is mighty and powerful. And I see that you have another book and you shared it with me earlier. So tell me a little bit about that too.
Well, and just and I see that you're writing a book. Let me. Where is it?
Yes, I am.
The Father's House
Well,
coming
I
soon.
I actually, so that's a funny story, real quick. I wrote that book, but another book I got signed for, stories are coming out of that book. So it's not technically that book. That's just like what I've been through. But God is so great like that, right? So the book that I'm writing is about confidence. And right now it's, but it's
Okay.
called Confidence is an Inside Job. And
Oh my
it's,
gosh.
we identify confidence killers and just kind of take them through that whole thing, how to keep walking it practically, and embrace who we are in Jesus.
That is so amazingly beautiful, because that's the whole idea of the logo there. I like to say bully proof is an inside job. No one can do it on the outside for you. You have to do it on the inside, because I guess I kind of got off on a tangent, but the parents will say, well, I want this kid removed from my kid's class because they're bullying my kid. Well, that may temporarily put a band-aid on the problem, but if we don't empower the child to believe in themselves, or the same thing is in the workforce, if you're not empowered to believe in yourself, just because they remove that one person, if you don't fix you, you're still going to be bullied by someone else. And
Hmm.
that's all about that inner confidence. Well, on changing the book, this book took me 8 years to write. Well, I'm a guy that barely graduated high school, so it took a
I
little
dropped
bit.
out twice. God is
So,
so good.
oh my gosh. But the original name, and it's kind of on the shelf right now, was Square Peg Round Hole. Why try to fit in when you were born to stand out? So that was the original name of this book. Then that will come later. But this one of my mentors, Chris Widener, I don't know if you've heard of Chris Widener. He did a TV show with Zig Ziglar and wrote a best-selling book called 12 Pillars with Jim Rome. He's
I've heard
phenomenal.
of that. I've heard
Yeah.
of that book.
And he's been a mentor for, oh my gosh, I don't know how many years. And this was kind of his, look, you need to talk about bullying and talk about what you've overcome and put that into a book. And so that's what we did. It was a lot. And the listeners out there, the people that are listening and considering writing a book, there's ups and downs. And Ashley, I'm sure, has shared with you, or she will, the ups and downs. I would get the darn book back, the manuscript back from my editor, and it would look like my high school papers, completely all red, right? You need to change this, change this. And I would print it out, have a little temper tantrum, throw it in the paper trash, storm out in the garage, hit some equipment, and then come back in. I'm like, all right, I guess I better get to work. But you have those pity parties. Well, I have the pity party, or Zig Ziglar always talked about the bad thing about pity parties is nobody brings gifts. All they bring is more pity. So if you need to have a private pity party, do that,
Do
and
it.
then get back to work.
Yeah, don't make giving up an option.
No. So,
Embrace your feelings, but then just get right back in it.
well, and that brings up a point you mentioned earlier about kids. It's almost like us, if and anybody else out there, if you post something on social media, you get 100 likes, 100 comments, 100 that positive, oh, that's so great, you're so wonderful, all that, and you get one person that says it's something negative.
Hmm.
And what do we focus on? We
That
focus on
negative
the negative.
thing. Yeah.
Now, some people would say, well, yes, it's because you want to improve. Yeah, I want to improve. I want to be humble and is open to constructive feedback and criticism as possible in order to grow, but not to the point of beating myself up where I completely neglect the 100 and focus only on the one. I don't know what that. Maybe that person was having a bad day. Maybe that person's Cain and they're jealous. I don't know.
I know. I always say to people, well, we call them trolls, right?
Yes.
You should talk to us about that. Like, was the social media era of bullying. But there's a troll emoji. Sometimes if it's really mean, I'll just put the troll emoji. Like, this is,
Oh,
I think it's really funny and cool. But then most of the time when they say negative or mean things, I'm like, who hurt you?
yeah.
Like, I'm always like, who hurt you? Or if they talk bad about God, I'm like, no, I would love to talk to you about Jesus. If they are like, your God sucks, you believe in a fairy tale, you just suck, and I'll be like, oh my God, we should have a conversation. I would love to talk to you. Like, those are the kind of people I want to come hate on me, okay?
Good
Come
for
bother
you.
me so I can
That's
show
that
you the
bullyproof
truth.
armor. That's that bullyproof armor. That's that
Yeah,
confidence. You almost
come
think you got
on.
a podcast called Confidence in Coffee or something. What?
Yes, yeah.
But that's it, it's a real thing. And yeah, social media bullying, people can now hide behind a device and say and do anything that they would never do face to face. My thing, man, I'd like to, like you said, sit down and just talk to you about this. But we can't fight hate with hate, which, I'm a work in progress, being a fighter my whole life. And well, you'd mentioned packing stuff in. And I talk about that in the book. I did a lot of that, but and then when it finally came out, it was bad news, not
Oh,
good. And
talk to us
unfortunately,
about that. Go back and talk to me about it.
well, I had, and it's a little story. And I'll give you the kind of quick synopsis. As a kid, I had a kid that was constantly, and I was an easy target. I'm not a very big person. I'm 5'7", and but I grew up on a farm, so that was one way kids could bully me. I was a farm boy, and it was like, "What's that smell? Oh, it smells like cow poop. Here comes Richie." Come on. But I mean, it was what it was. We had a milk cow at 9 years old. I'm out there milking the milk cows, what we use for milk, and we were very poor, and it was just an easy way for kids to pick on me. Well, one kid kept it up and kept it up, and I came in, kind of your prototypical story, came in crying, and my dad was there. Now, my dad's a Vietnam vet. He's part of the 101st Airborne Division. He doesn't like me talking about this stuff, but it is what it is. He was part of the 101st, and Hamburger Hill in 1969. He was a part of that. So he had a lot of self-bullying. But I came in, and he saw me. He's like, "Hey, the only way this kid's going to stop is if you punch him. You're going to have to punch him." I go, "I don't want to punch you, my dad." He goes, "You're going to have to freaking do it." Well, a couple days later, kid's at it again. He kicks me in the groin, and as I'm laying there crying, he leans over and gets in my face. Well, I grabbed this kid and kind of went Ralphie from Christmas Story on him and really hurt the kid bad. The fact is, and then my dad was gone. All I knew, my mom was scared to death. I mean, I remember it's her pulling me off, and there's blood absolutely everywhere. And my mom, I've never seen her so scared in my life. I didn't care what she said or what she did to me. All I knew was how proud Dad was going to be of me. Dad was going to be proud. I finally did it. I conquered my fears. I stood up to my bully, and I kicked his butt. Well, when Dad got home, Dad wasn't proud, and it got pretty physical. I mean, I love my dad. He did the best he could do with what he had at the time, so I don't fault him at all. But he freaked out on me. He goes, "What are you gonna? You're a tough guy now. You're beating up kids, and now you're gonna pay this kid's medical bills." Because I went to the hospital. He had a broken nose, and it was a mess. And it's because I packed it all in, and instead of letting it out, it exploded out. And that's what happens with all victims of bullying. If it's not out, and that's why we talk about, you got to get it out. Hit some equipment, go for a run, work out, and we talk a lot about this, because if you put it in there like a pressure cooker, it comes out. And that's why you hear about these kids shooting up schools. Well, it's a pressure cooker. It finally came out, and it always comes out far worse. Or on the other side, here's scary, and I want your listeners to really pay attention to this. Suicide is the second leading cause of death for ages 10 to 34. What? 10 to 34? How is that even possible? The number one cause of death is accidental death. That means it's a hodgepodge of everything they can't classify. But the boundaries keep getting further and further out. Now, suicide was always a top leading cause of death for about 15 to 2022. But the past several years, it's expanded on both sides. And a lot of that's due to the social media bullying, a lot of that doing the comparison game. Well, I posted my picture, and Ashley posted her picture. She got 100 likes. I only got 10. Well, I guess nobody loves me. I guess nobody likes me. I must be a loser. And at that same exact time, somebody posts something to remind you, yeah, you are a loser. Yeah. It's like, did I say that out loud? But they kind of pile on. So anyway, I bring all that up because what I did, and I know now why my dad was so angry and upset, was because he wanted me to stand up to my fears and punch this kid to get him to stop it, not to freak out and go overboard and just really, really hurt this kid to the point of putting him in the hospital. So by doing that for a long, long, long time, I was fearful to ever defend myself because I was afraid of freaking out again and really hurting somebody. So, which is kind of the worst thing you could do, because all I did was pack all that pain back in. And it took the instructor I've been with for a long, long time to help bring all that stuff out. So basically, that's what I want to share with the kids on, well, the ABCs. The A, trying to be aware of things, avoid it, believe in yourself, communicate clearly, and then defend yourself if physically attacked with enough force to stop it. That's why it's the palm strike to the solar plexus. The wind's knocked out on them. It's over, but you have gotten all of it out as opposed to packing it all in.
It's like some real cowboy stuff. This may be inappropriate, but have you ever seen Yellowstone?
I've seen a couple episodes. I've seen a
Okay,
couple.
not a Christian show, but it is what it is.
Well,
Well, the way they, like, if there's tension between the cowboys or whatever and the guys at the barn, the way that they like get that tension out or that offense, or, you know, if there's like some conflict, they fight it out. Like if there's ever an issue, like, let's go to the the horse thing and let's fight it
let's get
out.
up.
And I'm like, I don't get it. Like, I'll look at my husband. I'm like, I don't get it. But then everybody's great. Everybody's great because they got it all out. All this frustration, all this tension, all this anger. I mean, obviously, I don't promote violence, but it's so true. Is that what you got? Is that what you do? Like,
yeah, and I do everything I can to avoid conflict. I always like to stress that, because a lot of times kids will say, and parents, hey, you talk about, or you teach about, being passive, being defensive. You talk about trying to avoid conflict, but why the heck are we learning all this fighting and punching and kicking stuff? Well, and the answer I always give is, I'd rather you be a warrior in the garden than a gardener in the war. I'd rather you know how to protect yourself and never ever have to do it than get in a situation where you don't know how to protect yourself. But the physical motion of the microphone here, the punching and kicking and moving, one, obviously you get that adrenaline rush, the endorphin release in your brain. And not only is it healthy to get all that out, but hitting something is a heck of a good workout. And after you're done hitting equipment and working out, boy, oh boy, you feel good. When you feel good, you're not thinking about revenge anymore. You're not thinking about hurting somebody else. One, you're exhausted. And two, you've gotten it all out and you've got a heck of a physical workout. So that's why I always encourage, and I'll be honest with you, during the pandemic, during the lockdown, boy, oh boy, I'm so blessed that we had our equipment at our martial arts academy, because I beat the daylights out of that stuff.
Really?
But it was a great release. And, like I mentioned, the release, the endorphins, getting that out. And then, with Simon Sinek in his book, Leaders Eat Last, he talks about the 4 feel-good chemicals: endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin, all those naturally produced chemicals that you get those out by physical exertion, by doing something kind for someone else and doing something kind for yourself. And oftentimes we forget about the latter of it, but we get that hit when we do something for someone else with no expectations of anything in return. Man, that's a great feeling. And it's like, how do I reproduce that feeling? Well, you continue to give to others, but at the same time, we can't neglect ourselves. And I've been plenty guilty, as I'm sure you have as well, of putting everybody else first. And the old adage is, you can't pour from an empty cup. So if your cup is empty, right now I just finished my hot tea. There's nothing in there.
Look at that. I'm drinking tea too.
I love hot tea. It's every day, the different kinds, and I put my fish oil right in that tea to kind of help with the brain. I know. That's exactly. I told my son, Austin, who I said, buddy, you start drinking fish oil here. And the darn pills, I hate swallowing those. So anyway, it makes my lips all nice and oily. So we derailed. I'm sorry.
I love it. I love it. This is real.
About the other book.
We're supposed to be talking about the other book, but we're on testimonies. It's the Holy Spirit.
Testimonies, and
this is real life.
Hot tea. It is.
You know what? Somebody else is drinking their hot tea and feeling like they're a part of the conversation.
Absolutely. And if you're not, well, and I know that coffee, I rarely drink coffee because I've got enough energy and too hyperactive the way it is. And when I'm on coffee, it's almost like that. Remember that, oh goodness, that movie Over the Hedge, that little guy, the farmer.
Hey, I told you that it was going to be 2 parts. So are you guys enjoying the show so far? It is amazing. I'm so glad I made a new friend with Rich. And you're probably like, he's my friend too, right? So next Tuesday, we will finish our bully-proof episode with Rich, and you do not want to miss it. It only gets better, deeper, and more encouraging as we continue to empower you and your families with confidence. Did you enjoy that? I'd love to see you over at ashleyhennigan.com, where where you can subscribe to this podcast and channel on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen. And while you're at it, I'd love to see the value that you found in Confidence and Coffee. So drop the ratings, the reviews, in the comments. Plus, subscribe to this channel and tell a friend too. Make sure you tune in next time on Confidence and Coffee.